Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 49, hanging out with the Team East Coast Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu teammate today. So turn up the volume, throw those headphones on, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This show is brought to you by True Tubes Tattoo Supply, Limitless at checkout, RollAmongUs.com, Limitless20 at checkout, BattleBomb.com, Limitless20 at checkout, and Magic City Brewing Company located in Akron, Ohio. Support our sponsors like they support our show. We appreciate them just as much as we appreciate you. Now enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I hope all you guys are doing well out there, taking care of yourself and being safe. So today we have an awesome guest with us. He is a fellow teammate at East Coast Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is none other than Dan Kandray. He is a 3-stripe blue belt. He is also a local lawyer, and I'll let him explain more all about that. Been teammates with him for quite a few years. He has taught me a ton. I owe a ton of my jiu-jitsu skills that I have currently to his ability to teach and lead us. And he is also under Chad as well, with our partner in crime on this show. So Dan, thanks so much, man, for joining us. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for all of those compliments. It's hard to believe I taught you that much, but yeah, happy to help.
For sure, man. It's a huge thing for me to take what the upper belts have given me and absorb it and roll with you guys. And, you know, I tell Chad this all the time, like I've learned so much from you guys as upper belts, kind of seeing someone that maybe wants to get better and learn, not that no one else wants to, but personally for myself. And you know that, and I will ask those questions and I will ask odd questions and, you know, and stuff like that. But I think that's what makes jiu-jitsu what it is. And it makes like yourself, you know what I mean? Like what appealed to you for like jiu-jitsu?
What appealed to me?
Or wait, let's do this. Let's do this first. Dan, why don't you tell everybody about yourself? A little bit.
Yes. Yeah. So as Terry said, I'm Dan. I currently run a virtual law office in Canton, Ohio. My practice mainly consists of working with contracts, business law, real estate planning, and probate and trust administration. So.
And he's officially the Limitless Radiocast lawyer for everybody out there.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure, you know, and it's funny you say that because that's probably the favorite part of my practice is I work with a lot of small businesses, helping them, you know, form and then grow and, you know, do what other, you know, legal work they need me to do going forward. Sure. So yeah,
that's awesome,
happy to do it. Happy to do it.
How long have you done that?
So I've had my own practice since 2019.
Nice.
2019. But before that, I worked at a smaller law firm in Northwest Akron called Witchy and Firestein. Shout out to them. Amazing lawyers, amazing people. I had a great experience there. They taught me everything I know, essentially. And so the two head attorneys at that law firm are twins, and they started their own law firm. They're like in their 50s now.
Sure.
But they started their own law firm when they were in their 20s, and they started working with a bunch of small businesses. And now that they're in their 50s, those small businesses are now pretty large, successful businesses.
Sure. Okay.
And they've stayed clients. So, you know, that was a huge lesson from them that, you know, when you have smaller clients, it's good to invest in them, so that, you know, later on, if they become, you know, big and successful, that they'll continue to use your services.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, loyalty goes a long way. I mean, this is going to be a goofy comparison, but, you know, we talked about this to a guest that we had on, Chad George, a while back about being loyal, you know, so you're loyal to, you know, people who have always been there and stuck by you from the beginning. So you can go do other things and, you know, train other places or get other experience from other people, but you know your home, you come back to your home and you stay loyal to that. And people, once you treat us like we're always going to be with you no matter what. If, you know, we get that huge Spotify deal or whatever to everyone out there. So listen in very closely.
Get that Joe Rogan money.
That's right. Get a little piece of that.
My prices might go up if that happens.
That's all right.
That's okay because every episode will be brought to you by Kandray Law.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's
absolutely. Right. But yeah, no, loyalty is super important. And another thing I learned from them that I really put a focus on in my practice is creating relationships with my clients. You know, because I saw this as a younger attorney too, is there's not always human relationships in business, and whenever I say human relationships, you don't have to become best friends and see each other every weekend, but it's, speaking to clients as human beings, asking about their family whenever we start a meeting, just like little touches and talking to them like normal people, helps form that relationship, which makes, working with each other much, much easier, and, builds that trust, builds that loyalty going forward. So I definitely work hard to cultivate that kind of relationship.
Yeah. And I'm sure that helped you coming into the gym, right? Not knowing many people, that type of thing, right?
100%. My strategy is like, just be nice, and normally people are nice. People are nice back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. And even in professional environments, because I hate to say some stereotypes about attorneys can be true depending on the attorney.
Right.
So, I've been in situations where, professional situations where people want to be, they want to be the alpha. They want to be, I'm in control of this meeting. But sometimes, you kill them with kindness. And again, you speak to them like another human being. A lot of times you can be more productive in closing deals and other things like that, just by, again, talking to somebody on a human level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We've really changed our culture at my corporation that I work for to get to that more. You see more people talking that way. The big heads or the big egos are not in the meetings, or they've been quelled down to understand. So it's anyone out there who's listening, like, take notes, because it's a huge asset in your everyday life to obviously treat people right. But also you're going to get in return how you're treating people. And I know it's a cliche and it's been said a million times, but there is truth and validity to it. Dan's speaking of it, like, you are successful by how you can treat people, and, they're going to give you and be there for you. And then that loyalty and friendship, even if it's not friendship, the loyalty sticks, because you're like, man, that person was really good to me. They didn't treat me like just someone else coming in, or they didn't talk down to me. They treated me well. So I want to be with them, you know what I mean? And be around them and work with them. So yeah, that's good, man. So you were still engrossed in, or started BJJ when you were still in Akron, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because I started in October of 2017.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did it drive you? I mean, so was it a hard decision to walk away and start your own? I know it's a scary decision.
It was very, it was complicated. It was a very, very difficult decision in the sense that everybody that worked at that firm was awesome. They were excellent people. Excellent teachers. Just like I still talk to, half of them at least. And, so from the human aspect of just being around those people every day, it was very difficult to make the decision. But in terms of like the economics of it, like I kind of reached, in terms of like compensation and stuff, I kind of reached not the top, but since it's a small firm, if you want to increase your earnings, you need to bring in business. You need to bring in a lot of business. And I kind of looked at the financials, and, the business I was bringing in, I was only getting a very small percentage of that, and I was also offered another opportunity to kind of work remotely for another law firm out of state. And I wanted to kind of explore working remotely. And then the terms of that employment allowed me to open up my own law firm. Good. As well. And, I read a couple books about something called a virtual law firm, about running like a virtual law firm out of your house or some other location without having a physical office, and the benefits of that. And, I really wanted to do that because of the main benefit is there's no major overhead to inflate legal fees. I don't know if you guys have ever been to like a big lawyer's office, but they're pretty nice. Yeah. And it costs a lot of money to rent and furnish, right, and do all that kind of stuff. So, I really adopted the philosophy of providing high quality legal services without having to charge, clients for the overhead of of like a giant office. Now, granted, it's only me right now. I don't have any employees or anything. Yeah, so, right. If I grow and expand, that could obviously change. But I saw it as an opportunity, so I took it.
And that's good on you, because you saw the your potential and you believed in your potential to do that. And, some people will be afraid to do that in life. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to just say, yeah, I'm walking away from this. It's not that you're walking away completely, but you're going to explore something else to make yourself better or to put yourself in a better position, and we constantly talk to people all the time that have made those decisions to do so, especially on this show. And I think it's great for people out there to hear it, because they need to just keep being pounded in their head. Like, you don't have to be unhappy or do something that you're undervalued or you're not getting your worth. You know what I mean? So keep pushing and keep progressing yourself to be better, at everything. So yeah, that's cool, man. I love it, because I think, it's really good for people to understand that they can go and do other things, and you do have to put in hard work and you do have to be dedicated to doing it. It's, Chad and I starting the LimitLess Tape business is a prime example. Very small, obviously. We're going through opening up a business checking account or account to keep all our money together. And that's become a little bit of a roadblock right now because we're having a hard time. People are like, you need this much money to open up an account. And we're like, no. So
hey, if only you could do it all without banks. That's been my experience.
Yeah,
if you could do it all without banks, it would be much easier. And yeah, that's every small business owner I've ever dealt with. It's the administrative side of running a business that's always the most frustrating or the most difficult in one way or another. Because I mean, like, you open up a business to pursue a passion, but the passion isn't the only part of that business. Most of the business is everything else that
100%
goes along with it.
Yeah, it does, definitely. So, well, awesome, man. Good.
Yeah,
that's good. So that's a little bit of background and into the law world. But we're going to get into all kinds of great stuff today, guys. We're going to talk some sports. Obviously, Dan's a big sports fan. We talk many times at the gym about different things and big pop culture with great movies and some old school stuff, even old school shows. And, I think all three of us have jostled around some conversations that have played around all those areas many times, NBA and NFL football, definitely. So without that, though, we do have jiu-jitsu, and we do have to talk about jiu-jitsu a little bit. So I want to know why. Why did you want to do it?
Good question. So a little bit of a story here. So growing up, like myself and my brother have always been martial arts fans generally. Like when we were little, we watched Power Rangers. We loved the Mortal Kombat video games, the terrible 90s movie, all that kind of stuff. And then we kind of moved into like middle school, high school sports. And then, in high school, I became like a pretty big fan of MMA and the UFC in general. So this was like 2006 to 2009, increasingly farther and farther away. But I never thought about maybe training for it or anything like that. I had no interest in becoming a cage fighter. Still don't. Still have no interest in becoming a cage fighter. But so I was a fan in high school and all the way up through college. And then at some point in undergrad, I met somebody who, was an amateur MMA fighter and trained jiu-jitsu in their spare time. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then, listening to podcasts, one in particular, the Joe Rogan Experience.
Sure.
I know it's dangerous to give him credit these days, but, but the way him and some of his guests talked about it, it was like, oh, this is just a guy that's a comedian who trains jiu-jitsu in his spare time. And then he'd have other guests who would also train jiu-jitsu in their spare time. And it kind of put the bug in my head, like, oh, for lack of a better term, normal people can just go train jiu-jitsu and there's no major, there's no major danger or liability with that. So that got stuck in my head in college. And then I went to law school, no time, studied for the bar exam, no time. And then once I became an attorney and I started having weekends and spare time again, I kind of ran out of excuses and thought, it's now or never if I'm going to do it. Because, at the time I was engaged to my now wife, we didn't have any kids or anything. I didn't have any real responsibility. So I ran out of excuses and we were living in North Canton in North Canton at the time. And I just Googled local Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms, came upon East Coast, great reviews. And then I think I Facebook messaged Chad about training and I came in, started coming, became friends with people and
never looked back.
That's never looked back.
Exactly. Right. And I'm like a big routine guy too. So once
Once you're in,
don't get me wrong, I love training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for sure, but like once it's in my routine, it's now a major part of my life. Like these days, unless I'm hurt or have some other family function, like I'm going to the gym to train.
Right.
Yeah. That's what makes it great too. And for those who like routine, if you don't train and you're listening to the show right now, find a local gym. If you're around here, come to East Coast, because if you're definitely a routine person, then it's right up your alley, because that's exactly how I am. Like COVID messed me up in terms of working from home, because I was so routine at work that I had a specific thing that I did every day. But then now that I got comfortable at home, it was like, oh, well, I went to the gym every day at my lunch break. And then I would, when I started BJJ, I would go to BJJ at night. But now it's just like, oh, well, I can just work all day, which isn't healthy either. So
right. And I mean, I just want to add too, I can't say enough about the atmosphere that Chad and the other instructors have created at the gym. I mean, it's so, I was like blown away when I first started by how laid back and friendly literally everybody is.
Yeah.
And it's like, Terry, you talked about earlier, me and some other belts teaching you stuff about jiu-jitsu. That's how I learned, I learned so much from upper belts, still do learn so much from upper belts showing me stuff. And that kind of, again, just nice, laid back, like really, really nurturing atmosphere. I mean, it's like, I never want to go I would never want to go anywhere else. I love it.
Yeah.
That's something that's, we preach it every belt promotion. You guys have heard it over and over about the atmosphere. And that's just something that there is not, will never change. And that'll be carried on when I'm old and you guys got to carry me out of the gym, or I have one of those walkers, right, Terry?
That's right. Battle walker.
And it's something I think we take for granted for sometimes, or you just don't think about, because like on the way back from that match last week, Jay was supposed to have that match and we were talking about the other guys' matches, and, a couple of them were MMA fighters. And, then we started talking about how some MMA fighters don't like to train in the gi. And it just went to this big conversation. And Jay's like, why don't they want to do it? I'm like, it's how you're brought up. You guys don't think about that. That's because what Pete and what Mr. Hyman started, like, hey, you can fight MMA, but we're going to train in the gi.
Sure.
If you have a fight and you're in camp, the last month we'll probably take the gi off totally, just to so you don't get hurt wrapped up in something. But I think the things we built get taken for granted sometimes, for me, for all of us, right? Just because we don't think about that kind of stuff. It's just what we do.
It becomes a natural occurrence all the time once you're in it. And you're 100% right, Chad. Like Dan and I, that's how we started. And it's very normal for us to just be in that. Cause I've said that before too, about like, man, why don't they put a gi on? Like, why don't they try it? Like, it's just like, no, they don't ever do it. But I get it, because like those guys have never done it. They just, they would be like, well, why don't you take your gi off?
Well, yeah. And it's,
you know what I mean? So
big props to, big guys on the scene, Nogi guys on the scene, Gordon Ryan.
Oh, for sure.
They're awesome, but the gi's not going anywhere. People saying that the gi's going to be dead in 10 years or whatever. I don't believe that. We're going to keep it going.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Especially when the gi companies out there doing hot drops like every month, and, and they're being sold out before you can even get them. And then other guys, then they're reselling them for like huge money, and people are buying them. And it's like sneakers, man. We talked about that.
Yeah.
100%. People got to have their drip, man.
They do
have their drip.
They got to look good when they step on that.
Yeah.
And get choked.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think in my mind anyway, I like both of them equally, because they both have their differences.
Sure.
Yeah.
Major differences. This is my personal opinion, is I think, gi jiu-jitsu is more difficult. I think it's much more complicated because of all the extra grips and then the whole lapel game, which is just never ending. I think it's much more complicated than, say, Nogi. And that's no offense to anybody that loves Nogi or thinks.
Sure. Right.
It's just that I in my short experience, people that are great athletes can get away with a lot more stuff in Nogi than in gi.
Yes.
It's a harder puzzle to solve, right? There's always something, but
But on the other side, I'm also a huge fan of leg locks.
Right.
That's why I love Nogi. So I like both. And I think there's definitely room for both.
Yes.
For sure.
Definitely.
So,
with, wrestlers have become so prevalent in the Nogi world, ADCC, the top level wrestlers that have come out of college, D1s, and, guys that are really, really good. And they're on Who's Number One on Flow all the time. but like if those guys put gis on, it's a totally different game because you can slow a wrestler or make a wrestler work differently in a gi versus a no gi. Like it's proven. Like go against someone that wrestles that has no gi on, they're going to use a lot of their wrestling skills in order to get to positions. You know what I mean? Versus in a gi, it's very hard to do that because lapel or the grips and all that stuff. You can control someone to not be able to do that. At least in my obviously super short experience, just being on the mat.
For sure.
But I wrestled a little bit too. So that also, I could feel that transition when I would go back and forth, but yeah, anyway, that's good, man. No. Yeah. I forget what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you something else about jiu-jitsu. Oh, what was it about the leg lock game? Did you enjoy the entry of it, or like when you started doing it regularly, you're like, man, this really works well?
So, kind of a little bit of everything. So it really started when I started playing around with single leg X and then straight ankle locks. Okay. I just saw, it was just some random class a couple years ago. Somebody taught that and I just started playing around with it and it started working. It started working really, really well on a lot of people. So I kept playing with it. And then, as I progressed through jiu-jitsu, I'm only a blue belt, I became interested in like the next versions of that. So going on to knee bars and heel hooks. And, I think it's very fascinating because, not to be too cliche at this point, but it's like what, Danaher and those guys talk about is people ignore the legs. People ignore the legs, especially when people are passing, especially in the passing game. People don't think about the legs too much, and how big of a liability that can be while you're passing. So yeah, just playing around with it. And again, it was one of the few moves that worked pretty quickly for me. So I became interested in it and still like to try different stuff. So,
you're very good at them. So that's why I asked. It's like, yeah.
And my legs are super long. So that gives me a huge advantage. So
right.
I like to play into that.
That's why everyone, when I roll with Dan and I go, well, we're like pretty close to the same height, so it helps. So I'm like, well, I'm long too, so at least I can reach over to get a lapel.
For sure.
If he gets on that ankle.
For sure.
We were talking about the Rotolo Brothers not too long ago, and you're familiar with them, Dan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
sure.
The one thing they do, like with their passing, is they stomp pass or they stomp trap pass. So they step on that thigh. And Chad, you've we've not talked in depth about it, but sometimes I think, man, are they doing that to protect their legs? Did they really set their passing up to be that way instead of stepping in so much? They step on feet, step on thighs, step on arms, when they're passing. And I'm like, that's kind of nice. Never really seen it done. I don't see anyone else doing that except them.
Not as much as they do.
Yeah. They seem to do it all the time.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Now that could be a Nogi thing too, obviously.
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
Not for them. No.
That's just their game that they've kind of evolved into that game.
Well, I feel like with the stomp passes too, you need to. It's one of those you need to be very precise with it because I mean, if you go to stomp past somebody and your foot's off or your weight's wrong, like it can kind of be catastrophic. So the way that those guys are doing it's even makes it even more impressive.
Sure.
Yeah. Those kids, I mean, they're like the ones that were prophesized for jiu-jitsu. The kids, the high level athletes that have been training jiu-jitsu from a very young age, like.
Yeah, they're
because they're only. How old are they? They're only like.
They just turned 19.
They just turned 19. Both of them did. Yeah, and they just got their black belts last year at some point. Didn't they get promoted?
The end of last year.
The end of last year. And you couldn't tell the difference when you see them. Anytime you see them go after it.
You look at the rooms they grew up in, like literally grew up. I don't even know if they went to the like regular school. I know a lot of those like Atos and AOJ have like a charter school inside of them. At least AOJ might. At least I heard that before. Yeah. But those dudes have been growing up in some rooms like, you're 6 and Rafa Mendes is your instructor. Like what?
Right.
What?
Right.
And then tonight I'm going to Atos and Andre Galval is my instructor or whatever. Like
right.
Crazy.
They've never been without a top of the food chain in terms of competing on the scene.
Probably not. I think their dad's a black belt too.
So that makes a huge difference.
And they're going to start. I thought they were going to do MMA too, which will be interesting with their kind of funkiness, right? Like,
yeah.
And they'll probably have, I'm guessing they'll start with pro MMA. They're not going to do any amateur stuff.
I would doubt that they would.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine they would.
Yeah.
I don't know how they could get a fight. I mean, how they could get an
well,
amateur
right.
fight.
True.
Right.
But even at that pro level, starting out, if they get somebody to the ground, man, it's a wrap. Like that level of jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah. And if their stand-up game becomes as funky as what they're,
and I think it will.
And that's what, and you've seen the amount of time that all of us have watched, let's say, pro cage fighting, whether it's been in UFC, PFL or Bellator or One or anything. The funky fighters are guys who can be very successful because they're so unorthodox and it's hard to train for them. It's super hard. And if their stand-up game is like that versus, we already know what their ground game is like, and their jiu-jitsu is obviously off the charts phenomenally. So if they can put all the other stuff together, they could be people, guys.
The scary part too is like they're long and lanky. I don't know how tall they are. But they've been competing anywhere from like 170 up to heavyweight now, I think, or 200.
Sure. Yeah.
They'll probably fight at 155.
Yeah, right.
I would assume, right?
Yeah,
probably.
They'll be so tough at that weight.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch.
Be good stuff.
And what's really cool to me is they have so much time to develop too. Like if their career is managed correctly, which I'm sure it will be, like they're only 19 and they're some of the best ground guys in the world.
Yeah.
And they have so much time to get their striking in order. They have so much time to figure it out. Cause it's like nowadays, most MMA fighters don't, peak until their late 20s, early 30s.
Everyone.
And these guys are only 19. So, they have so much time and so much access to the best instructors in the world. It's crazy. And they have so much competition experience, like being able to compete that much, how nervous are they really going to be walking into the cage? Even though it's different, it's very different.
Very
sure.
Different,
it's definitely different. But
I mean, they've competed in jiu-jitsu at the highest stages.
Right.
So
they've had crowds, big crowds, big lights in front of them on them for a very long time. So that obviously helps, stepping into a cage to, biggest thing is, can you get hit and take it and get hit in the face?
that does change things.
That changes a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
So,
yeah, it does. Just like, hey, when MMA fighters come and roll jiu-jitsu, when you take that away, it changes. It changes everything.
Oh, yeah. When they can't, when they can't do that, then they're stuck. It's kind of in a sense of it. So
for sure,
that's even makes a jiu-jitsu practitioner so good when they're in the cage and they can constantly pull off jiu-jitsu stuff, and you're like, and he's not getting hit or she's not getting hit.
Yeah.
And being able to do that, is a whole nother level. So that's awesome, man. So that's some of the BJJ stuff. As we had to cover some BJJ stuff before we step into the world that everyone wants to talk about. Who's going to win the NBA championship this year?
Oh, and we could start with NBA.
We could start with NFL.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Well, we'll do this because Dan's show's not going to drop for a while. So Dan, who's going to win the Super Bowl? Now that you know the top 4 teams that are going into it. So when this all comes out, guys, the Super Bowl will be over, actually. So Dan's going to predict who's going to win.
Hey, let's preface this with Dan's a pretty big NFL nerd, right?
Yes,
for sure.
I mean, listening to you and Dom talk, I'm like, I know some stuff, but you guys are deep.
I'm also a multi-time fantasy football champion. So
that's right.
I know a thing or two.
You know a thing or two. That's right.
So so this is we're recording this right before the weekend of the conference championships.
Correct.
So my prediction is whoever wins the NFC championship, that's who's going to win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I'm leaning Rams, but I'm a little biased because I really want to see Matt Stafford win one just because he was with Detroit for forever. Yeah. The one team that's been worse than Cleveland most of the time.
Yes,
so,
100%.
I'm pulling for Stafford, but I think whoever wins the NFC championship game, that'll be who wins the Super Bowl. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Chiefs. I would not be surprised if it was the Chiefs. I really want the Bengals to lose, man. I know that's like, I know
you
that's
don't want them
like,
to win before Cleveland wins. Is that what it is?
Well, sure. that, and I just, they're a division rival. I can't root for them. I know they're in Ohio, but I can't root for them. So anyways, my answer is whoever wins the NFC championship game will win the Super Bowl.
Okay. So we have the Chiefs playing Cincinnati this weekend, and we have the Rams playing
San Francisco.
San Francisco. Which should be a pretty good matchup overall. They're going to obviously, bring it and whatnot. I think the Chiefs and Cincinnati game might be better though. Depends.
What's crazy is both times the Bengals have been to a Super Bowl, it's been against San Francisco.
San Francisco, right? Yeah. 85 was the last, wasn't it? Was it 85?
No, 85, and then there was another time because Boomer got him there.
That was 85, wasn't it?
I don't think so.
No?
I think there was a time after 85.
It might have been like
92.
Was it 92?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
I do remember that. You're right, Chad. They did play each other twice.
Yeah.
And San Francisco won both times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
that was in the Montana
that's Montana young era. Yeah.
Young era. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The nice thing is the teams that are playing now do have a lot of really, I'll say, young talent for the most part. I mean, obviously, Matt Stafford is not considered young in NFL, but at least he's on a team that's successful, like you said, Dan, coming off of, being with Detroit and just really being beat up year in and year out and still being able to go out, to LA and do what he's doing out there and being under McVay's offense. And, I think it showed that he has been a better quarterback his whole career, but just never had the talent or the ability around him in Detroit, which I'm with you. I'm kind of pulling for him. I like that kind of underdog story where a guy's never won and won to win. But I mean, I don't know. I picked Cincinnati to win because I think Joe Burrow is just at a point now where he's just clicking on all cylinders, and for him to come off ACL repair and to get back out there and to do what he's done this year and throw over 300 yards, 400-yard games is just kind of unprecedented for a quarterback as young as he is in the NFL. You can just look at him and go, man, he's a true quarterback in the NFL, Not that we don't have a true quarterback in Cleveland. Everybody out there who loves Cleveland, because I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. I have figurines behind me. I have stuff. So don't worry. I'm not dogging on my Browns. I'm a true Browns fan through and through for life.
Yeah. I mean, Cincy to me, they could definitely win it. I would not be surprised if they won it just because they have so much young talent. But Cincy to me has bigger weaknesses than the other three teams.
They do.
Cincinnati's, now don't get me wrong, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase together, and they have some other receivers on that team that are really good. But their offensive line is really bad. Like Joe Burrow got sacked 8 or 9 times
last week,
playoff
right?
game,
yeah.
Which is the fact they won, even though he got sacked that many times, is incredible. But that's a major thing to look at. The Rams are interesting to me too, because the Rams have really, really sold out to win now. Like they've made several trades over the years.
Yes, correct.
Trading for Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller this year, Matt Stafford in the offseason, where they've pretty much traded all of their major draft picks away. So it's kind of like if they don't win in the next 2 years, they really don't have a path forward. But don't sleep on San Fran. Do not sleep on San Fran, because San Fran has an incredible defense, a great running game. Yeah. And even though the quarterback's not a superstar like everybody else, and he likes to throw bad interceptions sometimes, they win. They're a very, very tough team. So
they're resilient.
It's exciting. It's exciting, man.
Yeah. This might be one of the most open years, right? Where it could be any of those teams that make it. You wouldn't be surprised.
Sure. For sure.
Right.
For sure.
And honestly, over the last several weeks of the playoffs, and that's just my opinion, I think it's some of the best football we've seen in a while that's been played. And I know it's playoff level and it should be that way. But, for the last several years, it's been really dominated on one side or the other from a team for the most part. And this year it's been like every week it's like, wow, this game is really good. This game is worth watching, and you get to see a lot of talent out there and stuff like that. So that's been really good. It's awesome. So what are the Browns going to do?
What are the Browns going to do? So, I am also a Baker Mayfield fan, but I think so. They picked up his 5th-year option.
They did.
And I think next year's it. I think they're going to ride with Baker. They might bring in like a mid-level backup quarterback to compete with him in camp.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's going to be the starter next year, and they're going to see how it goes. If he's 100% healthy,
sure,
they're going to give him as many weapons as they possibly can, which is I think their goal in the offseason. Is I think they're definitely going to draft a wide receiver, maybe sign a wide receiver, give Baker everything you possibly can, and then next year is kind of like the due diligence year of.
Yeah.
It's you're either going to be consistent and put together a good winning season, or you're not, and then we got to reevaluate their options.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah. I after the way this last season ended, I was pretty pessimistic about it. I think they really underperformed, but come April, come draft time, I'll be all excited again.
Sure. Oh yeah. That's what we do.
Ready to go. I'll probably go to a game next year. Yeah. So
that's what we do as Cleveland fans.
Yeah.
Not that we want to, but unfortunately this year was obviously not where anyone wanted it to be. But I think true fans, if you dive in, and listen and pay attention and, not judge right away and judge for some games and see what the product is. The product was bad. We all know the product was bad. Are they much better than that? Of course, they're much better than that. And we know that. We know what can happen there. And they do have a lot of great tools that a lot of other teams do not have. So I think some retooling on the offensive wise, maybe a couple, tools on the defensive side will help. I would love them to, not huge, but I would love to see Clowney come back. I would love them to bring him back defensively. I think that would be a huge thing. Getting Baker healthy, obviously. I definitely would like a top receiver to be drafted at that 13 spot, which I think they will. And then go out there and get someone else to accompany that offensive squad and just get back to what they were doing. If Baker's not hurt, he doesn't play this way, I don't think all year. And if you protect him, our offensive line had their relapses in and out all year. There were some injuries up front. So, it's the future's good if you're a true Browns fan and you want to stick through the pain and suffering like we all have for many years. I mean, hey, what's one more year to stick through it?
and look, I am super optimistic because of the front office and our head coach. I think that,
sure.
Andrew Berry and the staff he's put around him, plus Kevin Stefanski, I think those guys are incredibly intelligent, capable guys. I mean, they're by far the best we've had since Bill Belichick in the 90s.
For years, sure.
So, I have faith that they're going to put together some good things next year. And it's always, I said that I think the Browns underperformed last year, but it's always important to remember that, winning in the NFL is very hard. It's really, really hard to win in the NFL. Even these mid-level teams are so tough. It's tough. And look, last year we probably won some games, luckily, and then this year we just didn't get lucky on some of those games.
Right.
So it's just again, the preseason hype is what kills it. We were like Super Bowl favorites in the preseason, and that sets expectations so high. Whereas, it's important to remember that it wasn't that long ago that they went 0-16.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago that there was an 0-16 parade in Cleveland.
Yeah, no kidding. Exactly.
And people, what we have.
Yeah, 100%. And you have, social media and all the stuff is so much more hype now than it's ever been in terms of being able to bash people and being able to hype up things and just destroy, people are like, oh, well, they're professional athletes. They shouldn't feel that pressure. And I'm like, they're human beings. It wouldn't matter if I was the richest person. You don't think Elon Musk doesn't feel crap from people like bashing him for whatever he's doing, or, the Bill Gates of the world or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, does it hurt as bad? No. But
well, that's ahead, your point is perfect, but I think your example was bad because Elon Musk is a robot. But you're absolutely right. Like, think about, Terry, on your job, you made a mistake. You're already mad at the mistake, but then you have someone online saying, good job, Terry. You really messed that one up. Nice. Right. You should get fired for that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Twitter, I don't know if you guys are on Twitter, but Twitter is the cesspool.
Oh, it is the worst.
Of sports fans yelling. And there's a huge thing in Browns Twitter about, the Baker Mayfield backers.
Oh, yeah.
Mayfield haters.
And
it's like every other thing political in this country. It's the two farthest sides. He's either the greatest quarterback that's ever lived, or he's the worst quarterback we've ever had, which is an insane stance to have, by the way. But
there's been some bad ones.
It's just like the way my friends and I put it, and we obviously didn't come up with this, but it's like, posting on social media like that, you're just shouting into the void. It's like you're not accomplishing anything.
No.
So
your own little brain cell perspective. That's all you're accomplishing. I mean, it might mean something to the people out there, and I'm not going to bash anybody, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're not positively trying to help someone or build up someone, you're not doing anything. You're beating your own head against whatever you feel like because people are reading that. And there's others that want to argue with you. Sure. I am not one of those people.
The best question is, do you feel better after you posted that? That's always like the best question.
It's always
better.
Right. Right.
You feel good about that? No, usually not.
It didn't fix it. So. It didn't fix the issue. So you can post it 100 times, right?
No.
I try to tell Chad that every time I watch him like wrist lock a bunch of people, and I'm like, "Do you feel better? Do you feel better after doing that?"
And what do I say?
Always. He's always like, "Of course, I always do."
Yeah. A wrist lock, a loop choke, a straight arm bar.
That's the trifecta.
I never see more people pull straight arm bars than Chad the Wizard Kuhn. Like it's like all the time. Like on me, on other people, I'm like, what the heck? Like it's just a simple straight arm bar. It's not simple. I know I say that it's not simple at all, but it sure does the job.
Well, the last time I rolled with Chad, he got me in a straight arm bar, and he gets me every time because he's so good at setting it up in the sense that he gets me to plant my arm. He gets me to plant my arm some way, somehow. He gets me to plant, and then it's it.
Yep. You have to, or you're going to fall. You're not doing anything wrong because you don't want to fall. You either accept the sweep or the move, right? Or you post. So and I hit it from top side a lot too, because people want to reach, right? So you're either reaching or you're posting. Either way, the arm's straight, I feel it's a very underutilized submission. For sure. And to go back to the jiu-jitsu discussion, it's great that you do that to everybody because that gets us better at defending it. It gets us better at recognizing it. I haven't been loop choked by anybody but you in 6 months because you've hit me with it so many times that I've learned to recognize it for the most part. So
it doesn't take too long when you're like, well, I got loop choked 15 times today. Awesome.
Yeah. 15 times in one roll.
That's what I mean. Everyone out there, that's a 6-minute roll. The goal next time is to only get it 13 times. That's what I always tell myself. I'm like, today is only 13. All right.
And Chad, I always wonder what you do when you roll with Jay, because Jay never taps. So, I wonder if you just let it go, just don't even go after it.
He keeps his head in a good position as far as loop chokes. And speaking from experience, the beard does help a little bit. Just a look, because you can get in there, but you're like, I don't want to pull his beard. So
that's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, Jay and I have some fun rolls.
He has beard guard, both of them.
Yeah,
beard guard. That's beard guard. Yep.
Yeah,
that should be an oil, like a beard oil.
There you go.
Called beard guard.
There you go. You had an idea for some beard oil not too long ago, Chad. I don't remember what you said.
Well, we did that. We did that white belt tears for a minute.
Oh yeah, white belt tears.
Yeah. So we'll see.
So a lot of things.
Limitless Beard Company.
Well, Chad,
there you go.
I mean, Chad came up with I believe you came up with the idea of changing it to Limitless Industries. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I joked about it before, but I'm like, yeah, you might be onto something. we're just going to put everything under that umbrella. So time will tell that. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As you guys keep growing,
Yeah. We just have to keep doing what we're doing and, keep going forward and just having a positive attitude and, keep grinding and keep getting people out there, keep doing the podcast and bringing people on the show and talk jiu-jitsu and life and all kinds of stuff. Speaking of, did jiu-jitsu help you, Dan, like from a mental standpoint?
Oh, for sure. 100%. I mean, first off, it's the best stress relief.
Sure.
Maybe second best stress relief that, that I've come across, because I enjoy exercising for sure, but it's like jiu-jitsu is just as much mental as it is physical. And, it's so unique in the sense that it's a great workout. It's a great physical workout. It's a great mental workout. And then it's also a skill that you can get better at over time. And you can set goals for yourself within jiu-jitsu over time. So, it's definitely great stress relief. And then obviously it led me to make so many friends, at the gym. And I make the joke with Jay all the time because, since I work from home and besides talking to clients or my wife, God bless her, you guys are my social club as well.
Sure, right,
like I have friends outside of jiu-jitsu, but I see you guys more than I see, any other friend. And, I just love the atmosphere before class starts, talking about NFL, NBA, complain about our wives, even though we know that, our wives are the ones who have it difficult, not
right. Yeah. 100%.
Not the other way around.
Don't forget about ridiculing Trace a lot. before
Well,
class.
Trace deserves it. He deserves it,
Yeah. Before,
sure.
during, and after class.
Yeah, for sure.
He's getting yelled at by somebody.
Man, I gotta give him credit though. He's got just like the best attitude for it. He just takes so much punishment, and he just keeps coming. He just keeps coming.
Absolutely.
I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, for everybody out there, we have a teammate, young teammates, 22 years old, high motor, has grown in jiu-jitsu very fast and very well over his time being there. And we give him, out of all the young guys, I think he's the only one that we give crap to all the time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
But he takes it, and I think he knows that we all mean well at the same time as ribbing him, and there's nothing that we wouldn't do for him. But we also would, throw him out of a moving vehicle and make him walk home. So
he's very much so a little brother to everybody. He very much is. We make fun of him, but then like if he ever needed help, and he does a really good job of asking questions and listening to you and stuff like that. And he, I think what makes him magnetic to everybody, besides his goofy personality,
I was gonna say,
he's so eager to learn. He wants to learn, and that's the quickest way to grow in jiu-jitsu.
Yep,
is
100%.
You got to ask questions and really want to get better, and he does, and he competes like a fiend. So
I was just gonna say, like, a year. I think he's been with us about a year and a half ish, and he has over 60 competition matches.
He goes to everything.
That's crazy to have that many matches.
Wild.
Yeah,
and that was in one weekend at a grappling industry. So I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well,
could be. Right.
I was gonna say, could be.
One big round robin bracket.
Some of those grappling industries.
But I remember the first time once they did that Toledo tournament, it was the first time I got to go and actually watch Trace and coach him, right? And he listened so well, and he won. And he came off the mat and he's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't do better." I'm like, dude, and I appreciate that. I get what he's, in his mind, he didn't perform like he needed to, but that's just what makes him better. This will be the highlight of his day that we're talking about him on this podcast.
It should be. It should be. Should be the highlight.
He'll love this.
No, I mean, whenever we went down to that Naga tournament in Cincinnati too, it was interesting to watch the change in him. Like his first match, he won, but it was like just getting his. I should put this. The first match kind of warmed him up, and then the rest of the day he was just super high motor and just like I watched him beat a kid 29-0. It's just like.
Now, so you got to figure out.
That's a kid that ran off the mat to throw up.
No, different.
Oh, that was
same
a different
tournament.
kid. Okay,
same tournament, different kid.
Okay.
So for that one, that actually happened first. I think is he beat this kid at the end of he beat this kid by points. So at the end of the match, the kid, like right after they raised Trace's hand, the kid sprints off the mat.
In the video, you can see the kid run off.
Yeah. Jay and I are looking at each other like, what was that? And I think it was the kid's mom said something a lot. She was like, up. He's gonna go throw up. It was like this middle-aged lady who seemed to know exactly what was happening.
What was going on?
Yeah, and then but yeah, just because I mean I remember when Trace started, so it's like I remember where he started from. So to see him grow this quickly. Well, yeah,
and I remember he started right after we reopened from COVID when we were doing just solo drills, and he would come up, and I'm like, and he was like doing the solo drills. He wasn't just going through the motions. I'm like, who is this kid? If he sticks with it, man, he's gonna be good.
Yeah.
So and he did, and to stick with it during that point where we're not rolling is tough, as we know. Classes were 10 people. And then
we get in the line.
I flipped the switch and said we're rolling, and we had like 40 people a night.
Like instantly.
Yeah.
Floodgates.
And this is the last nice thing I'll say about him. So I keep joking with Jay, like the rate at which he's progressing because he works hard, because he's there all the time, because he wants to learn. I keep joking with Jay. I'm like, dude, I can't get a serious injury, or else like I'll come back and Trace will be
higher rank.
He'll be bash you. Well, not even the rank, just beating me up and down the mat, because he's progressing so quickly. But he's a bozo, man. He loves Mountain Dew.
He's a nerd.
He does. He's a Mountain Dewer consumer, along with Taco Bell. But his body wouldn't show that. Like he's in great shape because he's 22 years old and he works out all the time. And
But to bring it full circle to like what we were talking about, earlier, like Jay and I have, Jay's more so than me, like we've shown him a lot of stuff that he's adapted into his game, and like seeing lower ranks get better before your eyes. Like You too, Terry. You too.
Yeah, no,
the way you progress too. It's like, man, it's awesome. It's like, wait a second, because I'll have, I do this to upper belts too, and I'll have like some white belts be like, "Oh, Dan, I tried that thing you showed me and it worked," and I'm like, "That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome." So
yeah, it's
that just all feeds into the atmosphere. Yeah, it's awesome.
And that, like, for everyone out there, like, if you have an opportunity to be at a gym, feel it out and make sure it's like that, because not all gyms or academies or martial arts places are not the same. So always make sure you guys are doing a fill out type process, because you need people like Dan and like Chad and other people that we have at East Coast around you, because they want to get better, but they want you to get better. And I've said it a million times on this show. You guys have heard me all the time beat that horse, but I think it's vital to anyone that's going to do this. You want people in your corner to have you survive, because it's hard. Jiu-jitsu is one of the hardest things, if not the hardest martial art you will ever do in your life, and to stay with it. Like, Chad's talked about it before, the years it takes to be proficient, and then you're never at the top. You never will be black belt. Okay, cool. Like, I just have another rank, but I'm still learning and I'm still going. And we've had top-notch guys on this show. Chad, go ahead.
Yeah, you think about it, and we talked to this when Shannon White was on our show. Mm-hmm. Getting a blue belt in jiu-jitsu is probably one of the hardest, most challenging things anybody will ever do, right? Because it's 2 to 3 years of coming to at least 2 times a week, probably.
Sure.
And just that constance, like getting beat up and coming back, getting beat up, and then you see a little bit of progression, and then you get beat up again. Right. Dan, was it harder than law school? I mean, different, but you know what I mean? It's
physically,
but
so I think getting my blue belt was like on par with. Okay, so jiu-jitsu's fun though. Like, even when you're getting beat up, it was still really fun. So not to take away the difficulty, I would say passing the bar was a little bit harder, the bar exam, but that's just because it wasn't fun. Know?
Right.
But,
sure. Right.
Terry and I were talking about this before we started recording too, is it's like, man, I do have sympathy for brand new people whenever they start, because the first 9 months to a year coming in every day and just getting beat up. And then you're able to hit that first sweep, or you're able to do something that finally works for the first time, and the light bulb clicks, and you're like, oh my gosh, I swept him. It actually works. Jiu-jitsu works.
Yeah.
And then that as you get more of that, and as that progresses, it keeps the ball rolling, and it keeps you motivated. And I think that's kind of the mindset you need to have in jiu-jitsu. Again, what do I know? I'm only a blue belt, but it's like belts are a nice goal, but I think your ultimate mindset should be, I want to get better at jiu-jitsu, regardless of what my rank is. Because the ranks will come. It's just, do you want to get better at jiu-jitsu, or do you just want,
are you there just for ranking purposes, or to do whatever, or are you there to solve, my biased opinion, the greatest puzzle that you could ever solve? And you're never going to solve it, because that's what makes it so great, because then it's going to shift and change once you solve that puzzle or a part of it, which makes it so awesome. So I've talked about this before, and Chad's talked about this before. What do you think the biggest misconception is about BJJ to people, Dan?
That we're just a bunch of savages that beat each other up, and the atmosphere is like Fight Club,
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest misconception, is it's like any kind of jiu-jitsu person I've ever been around, obviously our gym, it's such a like loving, nurturing, friendly atmosphere, and it's very laid back. It's not at all like, it's not like everybody's real tense, like, oh, we're gonna fight tonight.
Right.
It's very much so just relax and like, let's have fun and get better. So I think the biggest misconception again is that we're a bunch of savage meatheads that just beat up on each other, when it couldn't be any further from the truth. I think
probably some of the nicest people you will ever meet in your entire life.
That will still, for sure, still beat you up and choke you out.
Right. But they'll still beat you up and choke you out, for sure.
And that's the best thing, is when people come in and they're like, roll with him. You roll with Russell, right? Russell doesn't look like he's going to do anything. And then you're tied in a knot and, getting buggy choked.
Sorry, Terry. I had this conversation recently about like how from training, because like if you hang around with people that don't train, sometimes people understand a little bit. They'll like treat you as if you're, the Punisher vigilante who can beat up anybody. Where it's like, oh, if we're in trouble, we're gonna call you. And it's like, well, training makes me want to get into a fight even less than I did beforehand.
Yeah,
right.
Because by training, you realize looks don't mean anything. Don't mean anything. So in terms of like assessing threat, it's like, man, this guy might look small, but he might murder me. So let's just avoid this situation altogether. But back to like training in the gym, I had a great conversation with Tyrese about how, like, as a white belt, you're sometimes scared to train with upper belts, right? Because it's like, oh, those guys are really good. Well, guess what? Those other guys have been doing it for so long and have so much experience that it's like your best roles are most likely going to be with upper belts because they're not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
They're going to let you work a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what he said. He's like, now some of my best rolls are with like upper belts because
it's slower too, right?
Yeah.
It's the pace. It's the pace.
Yeah.
It's a big difference, man.
Yeah.
Pete and I were just talking too, like, because I've shown him some of the videos from last week, Tyrese and Trace, and because Pete's not on social media, he didn't get to see anything, right? But
He's
just sitting back and right. Yeah. For us, as long as we've been there, to look and see how good the white belts get now, right? Because there's more, and we go to that backstory. Like when I started, it was 1 day a week, and it was Nogi, and then we added another. Just how quick people are getting good, man. It's crazy, and how, like, if you saw me at a white belt level, you'd been like, "What is that?" Like I was terrible looking back. But
you have to look at us as students now, our access to information.
It is.
We have you and Pete, who are both black belts, who have very different styles and know a ton of different techniques.
Yeah.
Plus the internet, plus all the other upper
plus
belts
everything
at our gym. It's like the wealth of information and ability to train that we have now compared to even whenever you started. We have a difference.
We have, what do we have? 8 to 10 jiu-jitsu classes a week now that you can potentially go to, right?
Yeah.
Which is
including
nuts, right?
And then you got open mat too,
And then we got open mat and seminars and
so go ahead, Chad.
And like Dan said, you walk into a gym and have 2 black belts at your disposal, right? Which is crazy. But that's it. That's everywhere around here now. There's a black belt, at least one black belt, I think, at every gym. Yeah, there has to be. When I started, a blue belt was something to see, and if you saw a purple belt, it's like, whoa. Yeah. What
like Kenny Florian just said, is like seeing a unicorn.
Yeah. It's like seeing a unicorn. Yeah. So
it's a testament to you, Chad and Pete, because you guys don't just go, well, we're black belts and we're just going to keep teaching our students. You evolve your game. You grow your game more and more. You're always researching. You're always watching video. You're watching what's going down, whether it's old or new or anything. You guys are still so engrossed in it. I'm not saying that other black belts aren't, but I think it's vital to every person that's going to take Brazilian jiu-jitsu class, jiu-jitsu, however, grappling, whatever, that your teachers are making themselves better at the same time. And you guys have shown that since I've been there, and everyone talks well about it. Dan, you've been there a lot longer than I have. And, Jay Stu and, and so you see it by everyone else learning. Tyrese is a prime example. He's done competitions and he's doing great, man. Watching those videos and getting to see him live, I'm like, yeah, really putting in the time, really putting in the effort to learn and we're tooting some horns today on the show between Grace and Tyrese. So you guys don't let this go to your head, because it's gonna someone will just put it on you in the gym this week probably, or when this comes.
I'm gonna still ankle lock them every time we roll.
Every time.
That's definitely still gonna happen.
Definitely gonna happen. So.
No, but I mean, like it just speaks to, again, the kind of environment that, Chad, you've helped create. And to your guys' point there, like there's I'd say about once a week, Chad will message me some kind of related technique that I might be interested in. Sure. Like once Chad figures out what you like, and once you train, like he cares about you getting better. He takes a personal interest in you getting better. And some of the most fun we have at the gym is like before class, where either me, Jay, and then Chad, most of all, go, hey guys, I got something to show you. Let me show you this. Let me show you this. I saw this on Instagram. I saw this on YouTube. Yeah. Or it's just something you're working on. Check this out. Maybe you'll like this. So
like, Dan, what the heck's a false reap? That was our discussion. We had to figure it out all week.
I had to figure it out. Yeah. I still don't understand why it's called false.
I don't know.
Reap, but
We need to get somebody on the show that knows that.
Did Jacob call it a false reap, or did the guys?
The announcers did.
Did
both,
Kendall and the other guy? They called it
did.
false. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll ask. We have Kent Peters on this weekend. He's a big leg lock guy. Maybe we'll ask him.
Yeah, he should know. I would imagine he would know.
Yeah.
He might not know why they call it false, but
Jacob didn't call it that though. He just said like a version of.
Well, no, he called in his.
He did
in his instructional.
Okay, he did. Okay, I didn't know that he did that. So awesome.
Yeah.
So, competition make you different?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the best thing about competition is it points out your weak points. It's like every competition I've done, I've only done 3 of them. You know, it's like everyone pointed out a weak point of something I definitely needed to work on. You know.
Nice.
And it makes you less nervous for class. That's for sure. It makes you less nervous for class because it's like sometimes, you know, everybody has days where they feel like crap and they don't want to train and you go anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, man, I really don't want to get tapped out a lot tonight. Whereas like after you compete, it's like, no big deal, whatever. Yeah, it does make you different. And it does give you a real good perspective on competition too, in the sense that it's different for sure, but it's not this insurmountably different type of rolling, you know? So
it's just more intense.
Yeah. It's just more intense. And we talk about Jay Stu a lot on this podcast, but he's got some great one-liners. He's like, the greatest thing about competition, because, you know, some people are afraid to compete because, you know, they'll roll in the gym and they feel like they're not accomplishing anything. They can't submit somebody, whatever. And Jay and I were talking about, well, you roll with the same people over and over again. They know your game and they're going to tailor themselves to try and stop your game and defend, right? Whereas the nice thing about competition, at least low-level competition like us, is, you know, they don't know what you're going to do. You have the benefit of going in with them not knowing exactly what your game is and being able to try and implement the game, you know, against theirs. So
there's a good point to that. I mean, for sure, because every day we roll with and train with people the same at the gym. So you can be like, oh, well, I can roll with you, Dan, and be like, if I have my feet in a certain position, or if I, you know, step over the leg or whatever, he's coming back on an ankle lock. Like I gotta watch.
But I used to, and Dan's got a very good point. That's true. And you'll probably be a lot more successful than you think because of that, right? Like you're going to hit your stuff. But I feel rolling with the same guys every day and they still know what you're going to do and you still doing it is even better, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like the straight arm bars that Chad does.
For sure. Well, he still loop chokes me too. He still loop chokes me too all the time.
Okay. Death, taxes, and tripod sweeps.
Look for it coming out in the near future.
Coming soon.
There'll be a instructional DVD. That's right. You heard it here first. Our lawyer just trademarked it.
he just stamped it.
He just stamped approval.
Oh, real quick, I wanted to add on to something you guys, Terry, you were talking about too, about how you should like shop around gyms.
Yeah.
Whenever you're picking an attorney for anything that you do, obviously, if you live in Northeast Ohio, I'd prefer you use me.
Sure. Yes.
But, you know, if you live somewhere else, or maybe I don't practice the kind of law that, you know, you need, or you just don't like my face, whatever, you know, whatever you're choosing an attorney or any other kind of professional, you should definitely shop around as well and meet with different people. Because depending on, you know, the reason behind, you know, you hiring an attorney, it's most likely going to be a stressful situation. So you want to make sure that you can connect with that person, you know, again, on a human level, and that you're going to be comfortable going through something stressful with them, you know, right? Is you hear horror stories of like people hiring divorce attorneys, and divorce is probably one of the most stressful things you could possibly go through. And they never return your calls. They're really condescending. They're really rude. So it's like, you know, don't ever settle for any kind of professional that you're going to hire. Always shop around, and you can fire your attorney at any time. So, you know, if he or she ends up being a jerk, fire them and go somewhere else. Don't ever be afraid. Don't ever be afraid to do that, because a lot of people, you know, the average person doesn't have a lot of, you know, knowledge of the justice system or other legal avenues as to how this whole thing works. So sometimes they just call up the first attorney and they go with him. Whereas no, you should definitely shop around, get to know them, make them kind of earn your business, you know. So just like jiu-jitsu gyms, shop around for lawyers.
Be smart, be diligent, and do your due diligence in your adventuring navigation from gyms to lawyers.
For sure. And any professional, any professional service.
Yep, exactly.
Lawyers, plumbers, whatever,
Yeah.
always shop around. Don't settle.
Yeah, for sure. So this will come out after, trade deadline, NBA. Are the Cavs going to make any moves?
They need to, with all the injuries, they really need to, but I don't know if they will, because
it's got to be the right move, right? Like it's this one.
Yeah, because price tags are high right now, and you don't necessarily want the Cavs to give up too many draft picks, but I don't know.
No, because their team's so young and so good. Like,
and who do you really like? Like I said, they were talking about, is it LeVert? That's who they've been talking about.
Karis LeVert.
Yeah, him. That might be a good one. But other than that, it's like, we got a good thing going.
Yeah. Even with the injuries, we have a great thing going. Maybe we can pick up another backup point guard. I loved Ricky Rubio.
Me too. They've been. I don't know if you saw that thing I sent you today. They're looking at Dennis Schroeder, but I don't know.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that for a six-man.
Yeah. That's what I was going to bring up. I was just looking for it because they just posted, and there's a lot of conversation and heat coming down on that now.
What do you give up?
Right.
Like I mean, I like him again for like energy off the bench. He'll provide you with scoring off the bench. That could definitely help. And he's not. I don't think he would mess with the chemistry that much. So
probably not.
I wouldn't be mad about that. But again, what's the price tag?
What's the price tag? Right.
Is the price tag worth giving up?
He might have learned his lesson. He might have learned his lesson when he wanted all that money in Boston and then went to LA and got nothing. Right?
That's true. He wanted a championship, and that did not.
Yeah,
that
did not happen.
Seems to be the thing to do. Go to LA, try to get a championship. It doesn't seem to happen.
That's the team I would be looking at to try and make a big move before the deadline.
Yeah.
I just read today, supposedly, who is it? The Rockets that have John Wall.
Yep.
Yes, they do.
That supposedly the Rockets might be open to trading John Wall for Russell Westbrook. But I mean, I don't know exactly how much the Lakers have to give up.
Yeah,
they have anything left.
John Wall.
They've gone so deep over the last several years to give up so much, and
more so. I think John Wall would be better, but I'm very anti-Westbrook. I think John Wall would be better, but how much better? So it's like, how much are you willing to give up to get a marginally better, often injured point guard?
Yeah.
Point guard, sure.
So.
He'd probably be better for morale. I don't know if morale's the right word, but I think Westbrook.
I think you're right.
I
think you're right. Yeah. I mean,
just to have him in the locker room, he just might be a happier guy. I don't know.
I'd hope so. I mean, there were deep reports about Russell Westbrook getting testy about getting called out during their tape study and stuff, and who knows. But I'm not picking the Lakers to win the championship this year. I think Anthony Davis is broken as usual.
Yep.
And even with LeBron being Hercules yet again, I just don't think they have enough to pull it off. And I'm not even sure LeBron's playing amazing for his age, but I mean, like that, what he's had to do in the playoffs, it's such a grind. Like
every year, since he's been to LA, well, I mean, almost every year of his career, except when he was in Miami. When in Miami, I mean, he did that. He was younger, obviously, and was able to, but they did have a lot of other pieces around him. Cleveland, they did when they won the championship, but it was still a lot on him. To make that. But when it's been in LA, I mean, nothing has worked since he's ever gone there. It's all been, pieces and pieces and pieces, and they've done nothing but he's had to put everybody on his shoulders and carry him, so
these GMs, man, I mean, like, I know I'm only a casual fan here, but it's like the blueprint for a good LeBron team is to surround them with shooters. So they signed Russell Westbrook, who's not a great shooter. Like, these GM, I mean, and this is a whole nother diatribe, and I'll give you the 2-second version. It's like, there's so much nepotism in pro sports, especially the NFL, that you wonder how, it's going to be bad, how qualified or how basically intelligent some of these people are. As a Browns fan, I can tell you that many of them were not qualified or that intelligent.
To be in the positions that they were in.
To be in the positions that you're in. It's like, how did they get this job? Oh, their dad was a coach. Their grandpa was a coach. Their dad was a general manager. And it's like, you see the downsides of nepotism, which is not present in jiu-jitsu, because it all gets revealed on the mat.
It all gets revealed on the mat. Yep, 100%. Yeah, there are, and it's so it's not changed. Even they want to talk about it changing, and like, oh, we brought in so-and-so, or even women being more involved in sports and being able to have the opportunity to coach men or be involved with that process. It's always been like the good old boys group. And if so-and-so knows so-and-so or something, or you know somebody, you have an opportunity to go right up that line and to become a GM. And it's like, oh, great, I got a GM job. Have you ever done anything like this before? Just wait till I put my fantasy football team together.
And there's a big issue with diversity too. There's still a huge issue with diversity in the NFL because after the last round of firings, Mike Tomlin was the only African-American head coach in the NFL.
Yep, exactly.
How is that possible?
Right.
Did you hear what Jimmy Johnson said about that?
No, what did he say?
Something about not that particular thing, but it was something like, well, if we want more black head coaches, we need more black general managers to hire them or something. And it was like, what?
Wow.
What did you say?
Wow. Not intelligent and
I mean, it's a huge issue. It's a huge issue that's not even close to resolving itself.
Correct.
And another thing about the old boys club, and this infuriates me more than even the nepotism, is you get these recycled coaches. You get these coaches who have been a head coach twice on terrible teams, but yet they get hired again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like that and the Patriots assistants, that's like my favorite thing is.
Everyone thinks that they're going to be successful because they were on a team that was successful that entire time.
But if you do research, like and I'm on this partially because I just read the newest Patriots Dynasty book, which was fantastic. It's Belichick. Yeah, these assistants are good, but Belichick is what makes that thing work.
Yeah.
That's what makes it work. So just because you're associated with somebody doesn't mean it's necessarily.
There's also there's a dark horse that a lot of people don't know about unless they've read books. And I don't know if he's in any of those books, but there's kind of a guy behind the scenes that helps out Belichick and like he's always in their ear.
Ernie Adams.
Yeah.
Adams. Yep.
No one talks about him a lot. It's almost like it's like the secret sauce. He has a huge input, and until you engross into reading or knowing about that, you don't know who this guy is, because you're like, who is like this savant of football? But he's had a lot to do with why they've been successful. He's had a lot to do with why Belichick coaches the way that he does.
Right.
But don't get me wrong, everybody. Belichick is a bona fide genius, and you can hate the Patriots. They were good, and still look at them this year with the team that they had. They were still really good, and it just took time for him to get everything in order. So, people are like, oh, you're going to be terrible because you don't have a quarterback anymore. You don't have this. Well, good coaches find a way to succeed, and, over time. So anyway, that's just about.
So I love in American sports that, we love to pinpoint individual players or individual people, and everything's an individual. Whereas especially in a game like football, it's hard for people to recognize how complex the situation is. And I'm referring to the Brady versus Belichick. Who did it? Was it more Brady or was it more Belichick? It was both. They're both excellent, in their own regard. But then together, you get that chemistry together. What they were able to accomplish was incredible. So I don't think it is Brady or Belichick. I think it was the situation they're in. It was them both together, perfect coach, perfect quarterback. And that's all across sports. And I mean,
100%.
I'd say the same thing. Yeah. Same thing with jiu-jitsu too. Gordon Ryan probably would have been great at jiu-jitsu without John Danaher. But with John Danaher,
even better.
It's on a whole nother level, right?
And that's not taking away anything from either of them. It's saying they're both great. And together they were able to accomplish something, even bigger.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point, man. Very good point. So you didn't say who would win. Is it the Warriors? Is that?
Maybe, dude. Warriors are tough. Warriors are tough now that Clay's back. Yeah. Steph hasn't been playing great as of late. But
he will. He'll be fine.
Yeah, they're tough.
What about who was I thinking of?
Nuggets. Nuggets are very good. Nuggets are always slept on.
Yeah.
Nikola
They're coached
Jokic.
well. Coached well.
Yes.
One of the best coaches in the league that I think, and maybe it's just my personal opinion, I think people underrate him because of the players they have, and they don't have like this, big, broad, bright stars. They do. They actually do. They just don't get the publicity. But
who else? Memphis. Look out for Memphis as well.
Memphis
John
really
Morant.
Ooh, John Morant is unbelievable.
He's a freak. Yeah. And then I don't know how Portland's going to do, but Portland's usually in it. At least
they're
first
usually
couple
in
rounds.
They play at the right time. They play good. They play well at the right time.
Utah kind of gets slept on a little bit here and there, but that whole West lineup is tough, man.
Well, the West is good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, for years, well, not years, but there was always discussion that they wanted to change the way playoffs were
top 16
picked. Right? Yeah, that's what they wanted to go.
That'd be interesting.
Because of that reason, because they always said, well, we're not getting the best of our best to compete against each other. And this has gone into baseball. It's gone into MLB because you have teams that are just terrible, and in baseball, it's obviously way different because, the tanking can be real in baseball and they do it for their reasons or whatever it is they're doing. But they were talking before taking just the top teams, no more of this division stuff, just take the top teams. That way you could get people to want to watch baseball and see the best baseball because it's sort of a dying sport. 3-hour games, super expensive. Kids are losing interest. Yeah, no steroids, no performance enhancing drugs. No.
Yeah. I'm a huge former Indians, now Guardians fan for sure, but I've been very anti-major league for the most part because they don't have a salary cap, and I think that's what prevents the parity that you see in the NFL, especially. That's why these playoff games are so tight, is because the salary cap makes it so you can't keep all these great players. They get dispersed among the league. Right. Whereas like with the MLB, it's like, oh well, the Yankees and Red Sox,
they just keep buying everybody. Players. Just keep buying.
And then Houston cheats and never gets punished, and that's absolutely fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. Baseball, in my opinion, is a mess. And the anti-steroids thing, it's like, give me a break. The fact that Barry Bonds will never be in the Hall of Fame is insane. Insane. Yeah. Especially because of how much baseball benefited from the steroid era.
Oh, yeah. And if anyone that knows baseball or has ever watched it, they knew about it the entire time. That's why, but they knew the viewership was up so high for those years that all that stuff was happening constantly. They turned a blind eye, and it was like, no, because everyone's watching, ratings are through the roof and stuff.
So since we're on the topic, I had to find this meme not a meme, but this thing that I found yesterday. We're talking about baseball. It says David Ortiz's career on base percentage was .380, right?
I saw this one. Yeah.
Did you see it? Barry Bonds on base percentage, if you turned all 762 of his home runs into outs, was .384.
Was .384. Yeah. Yeah.
That is crazy. And he's not in the Hall of Fame.
And he's not.
It's still higher. It's
and
nuts.
So I saw that.
That's when I watched baseball more.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
right. It was fun. It was exciting. I mean,
yeah.
People went to the game and you were just wanting it. And it was just like that, the Mark McGwire era, Sammy Sosa, that whole year. Like Mark McGwire is one of my favorite players of all time. And I know he got, buried in the depths of the steroid era. And, I wouldn't deny because I know what he looked like when he played for Team USA. When he looked like he was a stick, and then he became a giant. So it was like, well, wait a minute, this is not possible. But it's funny that Barry Bonds. I saw that meme, but then someone added something to that, Hank Aaron's numbers, and he still Hank Aaron's numbers blew everybody away still. And I was like, holy crap! It's hard to believe there are actually athletes that existed and exist still, in their own right to do stuff. NBA, baseball, but NFL, putting up some of the numbers. And you're like, as you alluded to earlier, Dan, all major league sports are the hardest things to do in any professional athlete or any athlete's life. The percentage is so small. Everyone now, I have kids, and it's always like, oh, my kid's going to get this or get a scholarship to play for this sport or whatever. And I'm like, I hope that they do, but it's 0.0001% chance that you will ever go on to play outside of high school. And then it's even lower percentage to go outside of college, obviously. So, just to it's hard. So when you see numbers that an athlete puts up at a professional level and it's above everybody else, you're like, that's not a human being. He's,
Yeah. And that's against other superhuman beings.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's to bring it all back to jiu-jitsu again. It's like to see what Gordon Ryan's one to see what Gordon Ryan does to the best heavyweights in the world. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane to see that kind of thing.
And he makes it look fairly easy. Watching him and being very young and not knowing a ton of stuff. I even look at it and go, what? That looked way easy. Does there's a line of people coming out here to compete against him? Because I think he can keep going. But
there was but back to the pro athletes thing. There was a great documentary I watched a couple years ago called Trophy Kids. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I've heard of it.
I have heard of this.
Parents that try to make their kids pro athletes, right?
Yeah.
One was a golf. He tried to make their kid really good at golf. The other was a kid in high school who wanted to go for basketball, all that kind of stuff. And one of the talking heads on there brought up a really good point. They're like, you're going to know if your kid has pro potential at a very young age.
Oh yeah.
Because they're going to be the best from when they're very young all the way up
All
through
the
college.
time. Yep.
Now, granted, there are obviously late bloomers. There are people that come into their own when they're playing college sports.
Sure. Oh yeah.
But generally, like this, like the superstars in the NFL, they were freak athletes when they were like 14.
Yeah.
You know, they were already the best player on varsity when they were freshmen and hadn't even finished growing, you know, so.
Yeah.
Go out there and Google Myles Garrett when he was in high school.
Yeah.
It was inevitable.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just, and
exactly.
I'm just, because I'm a huge Browns fan, obviously that's why I'm, you know, giving that analogy, but you're 100% right. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, man. We've kept you for a good over an hour, but you're not done yet because we want you to shout out everything. Do you have any questions or anything you want to ask us, Dan?
Talk about
Talk to your coach over there, Chad Kuhn.
I'll see him tomorrow. So
yeah.
No, not right now. I'm not really.
Okay.
I can't really think of anything.
Right.
But
Good,
as for the shout outs,
yes, shout out everything, how everyone can find you, find your law, everything, man.
So the main thing is kandraylaw.com, my website. You can contact me through there. It has all the information on my practice areas and my contact info. At Kandray Law on Instagram. Jay convinced me to get that site, and my wife has given me a lot of advice on that, on how I should run that, which I'm not following right now. And then Kandray Law on Facebook. So yeah, those are the three main sources business-wise. And then you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Facebook and Twitter, it's just Dan Kandray. And then on Instagram, it's GodDanIt90, which is an old joke from high school. So,
which is still one of the greatest social media tag names ever.
Thank you.
When I first heard it, I was like, well, his name's Dan, so.
Well, the sad part is, I'll add this real quick. The sad part is, you know, I was in high school whenever social media became popular, so I've been working to scrub the internet of all of my past activities. So, you know, I've had to do some cleaning up since then. So it's been
as fun. Chad and I would say, we still have a MySpace out there somewhere.
I do too. Yeah. I do too. That was awesome.
Good old days.
So yeah, kandraylaw.com. That's awesome. The best place to reach me at.
Cool. So everybody out there, if you guys need a lawyer far, near, wherever you're located, you know, look Dan up, check him out, message him. I'm sure he'll get back to you. And if there's anything he can do to help you or guide you, or you can hire him and get after it. Right.
For sure.
All right, absolutely, man. Well, thanks, Dan, for hanging out with us so much. Chad, you got anything?
Nope. See you tomorrow.
All right, man.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate
it. For sure.
It.
Can't wait to roll with you again, man, and get some training in here in this upcoming week, man. Take care, be safe, and we'll talk soon, all right?
Sounds good. Go Browns.
Right. Yes, go Browns.
Thanks, brother.
Later, man.
Thank you.